Welcome to. There we go.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Orangetown Town Hall for a meeting of the Town Board. We're going to start in a minute, with public comment, but first we're going to have attendance and the Pledge of Allegiance. Teresa?
Welcome. This is the regular town board meeting of March 15, 2016. On a roll call, Councilman Troy. Present. Councilman Divany.
Here.
Councilman Valentine.
Here.
Councilman Batari.
Here.
Supervisor Stewart.
Here.
I ask that everyone to please stand for the pledge. Esther.
Thank you, Teresa. So for tonight, we're in regular town board meeting mode, which means we have an agenda, which was largely complete last week during the workshop. There are a few small changes. Just want to make a quick announcement that looks like next meeting would be April 5th, and we're going to have at 7 o'clock a police commission, but we're also going to be talking to prospective lobbyists for the town during that time. And on the 12th, there is a public hearing on local law amending Chapter 18 of the Town Code relating to hawking and peddling. This is the registry that we're talking about creating, where if you don't want people knocking on your door, selling you or asking you to sell things, you can sign up and they'll be prohibited from doing that. So that's just a couple of quick announcements. Obviously, we want to wish everybody a great St. Patrick's Day and the parade coming up this weekend, and hoping for great weather on that. The agenda tonight includes a public hearing continuation on the prohibited uses, the Benzene, toluene, xylene question we've been talking about, and also a public hearing on a small town code amendment related to when and how the building department does certificates of occupancy. And then there are a number of items that are event-related and more or less housekeeping. And we have one matter that we need to go into executive session to talk about. It's a personnel disciplinary matter. So we'll get to that a little later. So without further ado, I'd like to make a motion to open the public comment period. Do I have a second? Over here from Divany. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. So just as a reminder, is there a sign-in sheet? So we have public comment on general matters, but we also have these public hearings at 8 o'clock or 8:05, and we need to do those on time. There are a couple people signed in for general public comment. And just as a reminder, we have a little timer here, 3 minutes. Sometimes people need it, sometimes they don't. But if you run over, I'll offer a gentle reminder to finish up your thought and make sure we're respectful of the time of other people who want to speak. So having said that, I'd love to invite Allison Sullivan to address the board on whatever you got if you stand by that podium. Another reminder is that we're lucky to have volunteers who run our television broadcast. And so if you see a camera there and two at the back of the room, we are on TV live and later put to YouTube. And I just thank our volunteers for that, and also our IT folks, Anthony and Matt, for making that work, right? Yeah, Tom?
Okay.
All right. So yeah, fire away.
All
Thank
right,
you very much.
thank you. My name is Allison Sullivan. I live in Blauvelt with my husband and two boys, ages 13 and 11. I'm here today to voice my concern about the toxic burning plastic smell that is in my neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods. I've smelled it for many years, and it seems to be getting worse. This smell comes from the plastic bag manufacturer, Aloof Plastics, on Route 303 in Orangeburg. In the past, I've reached out to Andy Stewart, the police department, and the DEC. I feel I've not been heard. Sometimes the smell is so overwhelmingly strong, I cannot open my windows for fresh air. My fear is that Aloof Plastics is putting my family and my community in danger. I fear inhaling burning plastic emissions is compromising our health. Aloof Plastics is dangerously close to homes, schools, walking trails, and churches. Studies show that being exposed to plastic emissions can cause asthma and cancer. Aside from health risks, how does having aloof plastics in our town affect our real estate value and quality of life? How does aloof plastics contribute to our community? To conclude, I'm here to raise awareness and to ask the board for help in this matter. You may ask, what took me so long to come forward? I would say I was naive enough to think that no one in our community would pass having something harmful reside in a populated neighborhood. I know now I need to stand up and say something if I feel it's wrong, because if I don't say something, I will have no one to blame but myself.
Thank you. I just want to note, we'll have everybody make their comments, but John Giardello from our building department is here tonight.
Great.
And though nobody, I understand that the aloof plastic, we've talked about it before. And John has information related to that. I'll ask him to
Great.
speak to it a little later.
Okay.
We didn't, obviously we just sort of picked up on Facebook that there were a number of people concerned about it, and of course you could smell it anyway. So a little bit later we'll have more information about that.
Great.
All right?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. John Buckley?
Good evening. My name is John Buckley. I'm a resident of Orangeburg, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of the Orangeburg Library. I just want to let you know that Mary Kane, who had been our library director, had resigned as of Friday, March 4th. She took advantage of an excellent job opportunity. I see her departure as a great loss to our library and the community as a whole. Mary was a very professional, dynamic, and caring individual, and she accomplished much during her 2 years as library director. Just a couple of things that spring to mind. She was the prime mover behind getting the entrance ramp fixed at the library in that building over there that had been festering for 2 to 3 years before she came on, and she really pushed to get that taken care of. She instituted the family picnic that we've had the last 2 summers, and she expanded our community outreach program with books going over to Dowling Gardens and Thorpe Village and the Dominican Convent. One of the enduring parts of her legacy will be the programming director that she hired, Lynn Warshawski, and she comes up with an awful lot of programs, and I just wanted to mention a couple that I think will be highlights of the coming months. On Tuesday, March 29th from 7 to 8, there's a dietitian, Jenna Amos from ShopRite, is going to give a talk on healthy eating, whether you're eating at home, at work, or dining out. There's a career assistance workshop, which I think is real important, with the consultant, Greg Knowles. I took his workshop last year when the library had it. It was really excellent. There's a resume writing workshop on April 9th, a Saturday, from 10 to 12, and a job search strategies program on Sunday, May 15th, from 1:30 to 3:30. He's also doing, through the library, private consultations, I think of an hour each on 2 dates, Wednesday, April 20th, and Monday, May 23rd, from 4:30 to 8:30. I think those are going to be invaluable to somebody looking for a job. He really helps out with people, whether you're just starting out, coming from college, or re-entering the workforce after a period of not working, and also dealing with discrimination really against people my age, seniors, and ageism and things. So it was really, I think, really worth participating in. Those programs would require registration through the library website or a call to the library. And the last thing I wanted to mention, on Thursday, April 14th, as part of National Library Week, the staff will host a free breakfast and tour at the library starting at 11 a.m. So as always, I thank you for the opportunity to address the board. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks for your work on behalf of the library as well. Esther Baitler?
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and all town board members. My name is Esther Ann Baitler, and I'm a consumer who lives over at Kathy Lucan's Independent Living Center in Spark Hill. Tonight I'm here to ask you all what is going on with our bus shelter for Route 340. I've yet to see any work being done, as well as the logistics of it. I have spoken to Sue Myers at the county. I have spoken to Chuck Schumer and to Governor Cuomo. And I will go further with it. But this is a much-needed bus shelter. week, I almost got killed waiting in the middle of the road for the 92 bus. Our consumers cannot stand in the middle of the road to get on a bus. All I keep hearing is, oh, it's going through, but I don't hear from anybody. And this is a great concern. Recently, I heard here, oh, we don't need an Esther bus shelter. Well, that's ludicrous because this is dangerous. Without my hard work and getting all the great letters, nothing would happen. I also think that I would love to hear the board respond as to what's being done. This is a danger waiting to happen. As you well know, I helped to run the venture agency. But when it comes to safety, that's important. I'd like to know what is being done about it. Who is working on what? And why haven't I heard? I've spoken to Corey from Ed Day's office, but I've yet to hear from everybody else. When is this going to happen? Because we're not going to sit back another year. And I speak for all of the people who I live with at the remarkable Kathy Lucan Living Center. Without me, there would have never been a venture, and that's for sure. I also would like to know what is going on with the sidewalks.
All right. Thank you, Esther. We'll respond to your comment and question in a minute. The next person signed up is Michael Mandel.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and members of the Town Board. For the record, my name is Michael Mandel, resident of Pearl River. Just before I start, I am a member of the Planning Board, and what I'm saying tonight has nothing to do with how the Planning Board will vote or consider the project. But it's good to see that finally, after more than 9 years, something that started in 2005 and then 2007, something will finally be constructed on the Stedge property at the Rockland Psychiatric site. I favor removing the restrictions and covenants agreed to by Stedge, thereby creating a clean slate. This will permit the Planning Board to review the plans and recommend changes that will be for the betterment of the town and the community. This will not only improve the site, but will make it more attractive to other businesses considering buying and developing property thereat. Currently, the way it looks over at that location, I don't think anybody wants to go there. I think if we develop something there, it would make a great difference. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Susan Nemesty.
Hi, I'm Susan Nemesty. I live in Palisades. First of all, I want to thank the board for all you've done for Palisades. The sidewalk was wonderful. I think it's, really helped a lot. My concern now is, first of all, Palisades has a 3-acre woodland parcel known as the Triangle, which is bordered on the east side by 9W, on the south by Oak Tree Road, and on the north by Closter Road. This property was privately owned, and when it went on the market in 1979, to protect it from development, it was purchased for $50,000 with donations from the residents of Palisades and from a special New York State Parks Fund designated to keep small parcels of land forever green. This is that triangle area right across from the post office, whatever. Legally, the triangle belongs to Orangetown and must forever remain parkland. Now, several years ago, someone from Yonder Hill, that old Methodist church, had cleared out a 25 by 15-foot area on the northeast corner across from Yonder Hill and illegally dumped a truckload of gravel, creating a parking area for about 4 or 5 cars. And recently, that area by the triangle has become a parking area for commuters and some of the patrons of Yonder Hill. And this is becoming a problem, particularly since that area of 9W, the speed limit there is 45 miles per hour, and especially heading south. There's a bend in the road on 9W, and as you come in from onto Closter Road and exit off of Closter Road, it's becoming increasingly dangerous. So what I'm trying to really find out is, since the triangle legally belongs to Orangetown, it's parkland, yet there's illegal parking going on there, which, since it's supposed to remain parkland, who should we turn to regarding restoring that area, getting rid of the parking there? It's a historic district, so Closter Road should not be widened or whatever. Who do we turn to regarding stopping the parking and restoring that area, in that one corner over there? That's basically what we'd like to find out. Many of the neighbors are actually a little bit concerned that it's becoming more and more, traffic, and
Right, okay,
so that's.
thank you. Heather Hurley.
Heather Hurley, Pearl River. Good evening, Town Board. After reading on social media about residents' complaints of offensive odors emanating from the Olive Plastics plant on 303, I'm here to ask the Board a few questions. First, the performance standards in Town Code 4.182 states, quote, "No emission of odorous gases or other odorous matter in such quantities as to be offensive at the specified points of measurement." More importantly, Town Code Chapter 43, Code 4.41, prohibits the manufacturing of plastic materials from raw materials. Aren't plastic bags and liners plastic materials? Olive Plastics' website says that they have 80 extruders. After a quick internet search, an extruder in plastics production is high-volume manufacturing in which raw plastic is melted and formed into a continuous profile. Though I have not had a chance to review the entire Olive file from the building department, I'd just like to know why the planning and zoning boards approved this company years ago when the town code seems to prohibit the manufacturing of plastic materials. And why is the town code on prohibited uses being continuously ignored, including in the case of Inelitech? From a ZBA meeting in 2008, this company was not required to fill out a long environmental assessment form. If this company is emitting volatile organic compounds along with the odor that residents have complained about, the nearest DEC air monitoring station for VOCs is located 27 miles away. Does this company have air monitoring equipment installed, and who is reviewing that information? Another topic I would like to ask about is the pedestrian mobility plan that was presented by Jim Dean months ago to some residents at the Pearl River Library. This sidewalk plan is along the stretch of Middletown Road between Central Avenue and Crooked Hill Road. Will Mr. Dean be presenting this plan again in front of the town board so that this can be viewed and made known to the public? Not sure how many people actually know about the grant that was awarded, the total cost of the project, and if the plan has been revised since the Pearl River Library information session. One area of concern was when the traffic study was conducted. As far as I remember, the traffic study afternoon hours were between the hours of 3 and 7 p.m. The middle school and high school both have dismissals around 2:30, and the traffic and student pedestrian traffic would greatly differ even during that short amount of time due to the school dismissals. Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen Larkin?
Good evening, members of the board. I'd like to talk first about item 8, which is the proposed NFL facility over by the old Stedge property. I think it's a good thing. I read on page 8 of the agenda tonight where this group will give to Orangetown the sum of $250,000 towards future infrastructure or recreational improvements it reads on and on, which is a good thing. And also the other good thing here is that it is a for-profit, capitalism at its best, sports entity which will pay full real estate property taxes and other assessments on the land and any improvements that might be installed. So in other words, they won't be looking for a pilot program, which are two very positive things, in my humble opinion, to taken fully into consideration as you consider voting for this project, which I hope you will do. The other thing is the bus shelter that Esther has worked very hard to be built over by where she lives by Venture. And I hope when it is built that we do have a little sign there that says, "Thank you, Esther Baitler, for all your hard work." She deserves all those good things. She deserves all those good things. And hopefully we'll get busy on, doesn't take much to make a curb cut, put up a little building and a little seat. Not too complicated unless government gets involved. But the other thing is the water rate hike that Suez is again seeking. I hope people know in the community that they are seeking for another increase in their rates to the people of Rockland County. And last week when I spoke about the display case that we have out here, March is also Women's History Month. While we do celebrate Irish history, women's history is also very important to the whole world, I guess. And it would be nice if in the future, when we see these dedications to so-and-so being considered, that we plan ahead of time to put displays out here. There was Black History Month between the residents in Spark Hill and Nyack. We really could have done a wonderful display out here. For Irish history, I can tell you, I can give you a lot of Irish history books and mementos and things that I have collected over the years. And Women's History Month, you know, all the women that became elected officials, all the women that became involved in medicine, that have created cures or just been good mothers, good members of a community. It's terrible when you come here and you don't see things like that being used to their fullest extent. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Eileen. By a raise of hands, is anyone else here for general public comment? Yes, sir, at the back of the blue or black blazer there.
Good evening, town board members. Nick Frastacci from Spark Hill. Good to see you back, Dennis. Hope you're feeling well. I'm bringing up a subject that Mike Mandel brought up last town board meeting that I saw on television. I was out of town, and the figures for Broadacres. I don't see them on the list tonight, and you promised, if I'm correctly, that you'd have them at this town board meeting. Whether there was loss, profit, and whatnot. I don't see them listed on today's agenda. I want to comment, where are they?
Yeah, we can do that report, but it wasn't intended for the agenda for tonight.
Well,
So-
he brought it up at the March 1st meeting that it would be here tonight.
Well, we appreciate the reminder on that. Thank you very much.
Well, can I?
And you're welcome to come in, and we'll create a report for you. Our finance director is easily able to do that.
Wouldn't it be nice if you made it public?
Absolutely.
Publish it in the paper or town or something?
Yeah,
So everybody
we'll take
knows,
care
and not
of it
just
in-
a certain
in town
few.
hall. Thank you, though, for the reminder. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? I'll make a motion to close public comment period. Do I have a second? From Valentine, all in favor, say aye. All right, where does that leave us time-wise? Okay, a minute or two. I got 7:57. 8:05. Say that again? We're gonna, yeah, let's bring him up. You know, there's a couple of items here I'd like to respond to, but I also said I'd bring John G. up to just address the aloof question real quick. So John, could you just come up to the podium briefly? This is the director of our building department.
Well, John G. is coming up. The Palisades, the property is ours, the triangle right across from the post office. All right, one of the things we should do is bring that before the Traffic Advisory Committee, Paul.
I agree.
Because we've done that in other areas where people are parking illegally, and you end up putting the signs there that nobody's parking, and then once you have the signs there and you pass the resolution, then the police department can give them tickets for being on that spot. So, to me, my advice would be to go to the traffic advisory. you know, it meets on the first Tuesday of the month? At 10:30 on the first Tuesday. And if you can get, you know, put together the information, take some pictures, and present it to the traffic advisory. If you can't be there, at least send it in with the letter, all right?
You can work with my office to get on the agenda for that.
Now, Jim, the gravel, could that be removed as well? It's a green space in Palisades.
Well, actually, I think this is occurring in the county right-of-way, postal road happens to be a county road. I believe this is part of the county right-of-way. So whatever we do, we have to work in conjunction with the county. I agree with Councilman Troy.
So let's get that on the traffic advisory board, and they'll do a complete kind of review of who's doing what and what the rules are and what the safety issues are, and come up with a solution. John G., if you could just talk to the board for a minute about aloof plastics. So this is something that you and I have spoken about. There's a complaint from time to time about the odor.
Right.
What's the status of that?
Well, let me just give you a little history first. Aloof Plastics they came in 1980s. Prior to that, there was another manufacturer in that building, probably since the 60s. Aloof Plastics, over the years, we've had odor complaints. We actually don't handle the odor complaints. We used to have the health department handle them. And as probably about 3 years ago, they actually put in a state-of-the-art scrubber. They worked closely with Greg Price, who's no longer at the health department, but he actually worked with them in getting a consultant who designed this system, and they had to come to us for the building permit, and that was probably about 3 years ago. The odor complaints, I had an anonymous one back in January. A woman came to my office, but she wouldn't give me her name or where she lived. So I had Paul Whitty, our code enforcement officer, go around the area several times, and up until about February, he said he didn't smell any odors. But again, he would go out periodically, different times of the day, just to see. I'm not sure exactly when they smell the odors, if there's certain days of the week. You know, we can check into it, but again, we don't really enforce the odor control.
But we have scrubbers down at the sewer department. And the filters that are with the scrubbers are very expensive, and they have to be
Right, maintained.
yeah, maintained or rotated. You
Right,
buy new
replaced.
ones and bring them in. So I think that's something else that needs to be looked at.
Right.
With that particular location.
Well, that's what one of the things we'll do.
Is the New York State DEC involved in some way as far as a role related to this?
Again, we didn't actually handle the scrubber portion. That was through the health department. They may have been notified at the time, but again, the health department was the local jurisdiction that was handling it. I can check with the health department, but I'm not sure if there's anyone who does that anymore.
What's that person's name?
The person was Greg Price, but he's passed away, so he's not there any longer. So, and I don't think they filled his position, so I don't know if there is
Well,
anyone.
we reviewed this during the yellow tech, and we found out that the county health code was amended in the odor-related, kind of
Right.
part of the health department's mission was removed.
Right.
I think subsequent to the retirement or the passing away of whoever was there
Right.
who carried the ball, leaving our building department without the usual follow-up method when we do get a complaint.
Right.
And I talked to Ed Day about our county executive, and he said, well, the DEC handles these things. And so the town residents feel a little bit like they're kind of in limbo as far as knowing where to turn if they worry about an odor being not just an odor, but having a health effect of some kind. And of course, it can be pretty annoying, even if it wasn't dangerous to your health, so.
Right.
So right now, I guess as it stands, if people do have an issue, they need to call you, and they need to say who they are, where they live, and what
Right.
time,
Correct.
you know, and what the conditions are. So
Because that helps us narrow it down to who's doing it. I mean, I can't just go to a business and say, you're emitting an odor, when did you, have to have some information.
Are we allowed to weigh in or no?
Right, well, not right now, but you certainly talk to John after the meeting, and we can continue the conversation offline. But we have a lot of the topics we're getting to. It's helpful just as, and you have contacted me before, which I really appreciate, but some of these things make sense to kind of do some research on and then come back and report back. So, John, is there anything else on this that you've got? Okay. Thanks a lot. Our next item, we really need to cut over to the public hearing that we advertised for 8:05. And to that end, I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing on the proposed text amendments to the zoning code to require the issuance of a building permit and certificate of occupancy for a new operator or occupant of a commercial business when the use hasn't actually changed, but it's a new operator of the business. So this is the opening of the public hearing. There are, let me check here for anybody who signed in. Nobody signed in. Folks who were using the sheet actually crossed their names off because they were shooting for a different sheet. So has anybody, by raise of hands, anybody here to speak or comment on the question of this particular modest but important amendment to the town code? Not seeing anybody's hands up.
Could you say in pedestrian terminology what this means?
John G., could you come back to the podium for a minute? This was a... Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had a second. We opened the public hearing.
What's the question?
This is just, in simple layperson's terms, the intention of this code change is what?
It's to coincide what we currently do. The code language is very weak in terms of having requirements for someone to get a certificate of occupancy when you have a commercial business and you either have a new tenant or you sell the building and get a new tenant in, I mean, a new person occupies it. So what I had Dennis Michaels and I discussed it, and he developed this language which is clearer in terms of requiring the CO. It's not a change of any kind of procedure that we currently do. It's not going to change anything. It's what we currently do. It's just clarifies.
So
better.
John, if it's a pizzeria and the old owner moves out and the new owner moves in,
Right.
that's what you're talking about,
That-
in layman's terms.
Right. I'll give you another example. I have a manufacturer. Manufacturer A is in the building. They leave the building or they lease the building to manufacturer B. We don't get a new CO, we won't know what manufacturer B is doing. So that's, I can't make it any clearer than that. That's why we require it, so that we can make sure they're in compliance with the site plan, any other requirements, if they have to go back for performance standards, because now they changed their operations. So that's the requirement. That's why I want the language clear, so we don't have an issue.
So it's not changing from a pizzeria to a main.
Well, it could be.
Could be.
Any time that there's a change of owners in an established business, commercial business.
And they do it now.
Does this have to do with
The change of
splitting
occupancy.
between two businesses?
Yeah. We're going to, the scenario is pretty clear.
Right.
One guy moves out, another guy moves in. It may look like they're just continuing the operation, but you want to make sure, maybe they came in with new machinery, maybe they have different equipment.
Correct.
And you need to be sure that when you ask them to reveal that to you, you've got the certificate of occupancy.
And who the people are, so that if we have to contact someone, if there's an emergency, we have the information at hand.
But
No,
John,
right.
you're basically codifying what you already do.
Correct.
So you already do this, but now it's clear.
It's been done before I even got here.
All right, so we're basically adding a law that we've already been,
You're amending the
Quasi-enforcement.
current language, just, right, to codify it.
Thanks, John.
Okay.
So people can speak during the public.
It is a public hearing. We didn't close it. If you'd like to make a comment about this, is that Carol?
Carol,
Yeah, go ahead. Come to the podium so we can hear you. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Carol Baxter from Palisades. Is this just clarifying the language?
Sorry.
Wow, that was short.
Keep going.
Is this about clarifying the language of what it is now, or is it about changing something, like if you have one commercial space and it's going to be divided into now two, it needs approval to be divided into two commercial spaces.
Internal subdivision, you definitely have to go to the building department anyway.
Right, but does this have something, is this language that's being changed or clarified? Is it changing the rule that you can have
John?
two? Do you know what?
As John said, it's a clarification of a practice that has been in existence for a long time. Having said that,
Right.
when somebody is charged with a violation, and you look at the language of the existing statute, they can find a way to defend a change of occupancy rather than a change of use. There are a whole host of situations to which it may apply. The pizza shop is replaced by a pizza shop. That's not going to be a problem, but we should know, and it's not going to create the need for a new or a different approval. You posit a possible situation where a single
Like pizza shop
store is
wants to
broken
divide it.
into two. That clearly requires a review and approval. There might be a situation where the pizza shop goes to another commercial use, which is permitted in the zone, but there are different parking calculations, there are different fire code separation requires. There's a host of things, and when people simply go in and go out and the building department is not informed, does not have the opportunity to review, circumstances arise. Then a violation is filed and somebody says, the code doesn't say that, even though that's how it's been enforced. So it's not intended to effect a new change, but it does clarify a practice so that those situations are not defensible in court when there's an actual change that triggers what the building department should know about and should be able to react to. Many places call it a certificate of compliance with a change of occupancy. Some codes speak purely to a change of use, and somebody comes in and says, I didn't change the use, it's a commercial use. It's a commercial use under category A1 of the building code or whatever. That may or may not be true. The problem is, unless and until the building department knows about it, they can't assess the situation, whether a new approval is necessary or whether perhaps that occupancy is not permitted or not permitted because of surrounding circumstances. So it clarifies
I think-
what they've been doing, but it clarifies it.
Okay. So it's not changing the rules. So a business that's zoned for one business in a spot, and it
If
wants
you
to be
were
divided into
accused-
two.
If you were accused of a violation, you might say it's changing the rule. In that case, we're
Right.
changing the rule. But it's really the practice, it's the interpretation by the building department. It has been in effect for a long time. And now we're saying, okay, don't come saying we're changing the rule. We're not changing the rule. It is what it is.
Okay. Do you understand?
You could keep,
Everything
if
remains
you have
the
a
same.
business, keep doing what you're doing. If the building goes to a new occupant, go to the building department.
Yeah, I just want, so whatever is currently, for example, in Palisades, we have a couple of commercial businesses in residential areas, so, and they're slated, they're only allowed to be certain businesses, so they can't come and put a gas station in what is currently a restaurant, right?
Of course not.
Okay, so what's there, okay.
You'd have to go to the building department and have it reviewed. Any other comments regarding this? Okay. Got a motion to close the public hearing on this amendment to the zoning code. Do I have a second from Jerry Bottari? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public portion is hereby closed. Then there's a couple of things we do whenever we look at amending the code. One of them is a secret declaration under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And then there's the code adoption. So item number 3 is the town board is assuming the role of lead agency to conduct the environmental review of this code change. Any code change requires an environmental review. And so I will make the motion that pursuant to SECRA and so on and so forth, the town board hereby declares itself as lead agency.
Second.
We have a second from Tom Divany. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We also have reviewed and tried to identify any environmental impacts from this. There are no significant environmental impacts, and therefore are under our authority as lead agency for SECRA. I'd like to propose that we have a negative declaration under SECRA for environmental impact. A second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. Aye. So as a negative declaration. And now number 4 is the actual adoption of the local law, amending the zoning code to require a building permit or a certificate of occupancy for a new operator or occupant of a commercial business. The second motion from Tom Divany, second from over here, Jerry Bottari. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. And thank you, John G., for initiating that clarification and making it possible to run your shop and keep people safe just a little bit better. We appreciate that. Number 5 is the issue that we've been working on for a while, which is the continuation of the public hearing on the prohibited uses and changes to the table of general use regulations for the LI zoning district. And we're continuing the public hearing to tonight. And I know the town board members have a few comments to make on this, but we were going to start that at 8:10, and it's 8:15. So I'll make a motion to continue. A second from Mr. Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we're continuing this public hearing. And does any of the town board members want to make a comment at this time? Or there's 1 or 2 people signed in, so.
We'll let people speak, but I'm still waiting to hear back from Mr. O'Reilly from Lamont Doherty, so I'm going to recommend that we adjourn this to April 12th.
Right.
I've made a number of calls to him at the request of certain organizations, and he still hasn't gotten back to me, so I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn it until I can talk to him regarding the scale provision of this legislation.
I'll also put that question to a couple of people I've been trying to get advice from on this as well, as far as this scale question in terms of laboratory production of toxics. And but I would support that move to give us some more time. Not hearing any other comments right now. Several people have signed in to speak on this issue, and I would like to invite Amy Wertheim to address the board.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart
Good evening.
and town board members. Communities all need to grow and prosper, so what is the best way to approach the issue of growth? One approach might be to define what the phase quality of life means for your community. In some municipalities, this might mean focusing on new residential development that is designed with the community in mind, which will improve the range and quality of housing options available to local residents. Other communities may wish to focus on improving quality of life through services offered such as school performance, crime reduction, parks and recreation, pedestrian-friendly infrastructure, bikeways and paths, and senior services. In economically distressed municipalities, providing jobs, new businesses, redevelopment opportunities, and other commercial activities might be paramount. Still, other communities may wish to take a balanced approach to mixing residential development with new commercial and industrial growth that can generate new jobs and income. Regardless of one's perspective, improving the quality of life and amenities for residents in ways that are affordable. This is the best way to stabilize your community. Clean ratables are what we need here in Orangetown. The town codes need to reflect that desire without any loopholes or misinterpretations. It is important for all of us to breathe easier, knowing that in order to put stakes in the ground here, companies must not negatively impact the air, threaten the health and safety or well-being of our residents. The town of Orangetown needs a committee of experts that can evaluate these applications to ensure that our codes are being followed. In the interim, we need a code that defines scale of R&D, light manufacturing, and manufacturing. It shouldn't be a mystery or a puzzle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wertheim. Heather Hurley.
Heather Hurley, Pearl River. So first, I just wanted to address the air pollution issue because it kind of ties in with the with prohibiting the manufacturing of BTX as well. But just so you know, the air pollution control was rescinded from the county sanitary code in April of 2014, along with the provisions for mercury-free living and working environment. So in order for someone to determine who actually is looking at whatever emissions are coming out, I don't think the county handles that anymore, so that would have to either be the town or the DEC. So if the DEC is not involved, who is? Since at least May of 2015, the public has proposed defining scale to an amendment geared toward banning the manufacturing of VTX in Orangetown. Many of you agreed with that suggestion. Since learning that Inelitech was moving its BTX production to Texas, the public has repeatedly asked for the town to include defining R&D scale and quantities allowable under R&D. This is a loophole in the town code, which is how Inelitech was able to submit a proposal to expand. Again, I'm stressing that this amendment is not fit for a vote. It would be an injustice to the people of Orangetown to vote on this tonight, so I thank you for continuing the work on the amendment and continuing the hearing until more work is done on it. Perhaps defining a pilot plant as 10 times that of a lab scale would benefit the town, or possibly anything 10 times bench scale should be considered manufacturing. If the town board is against referencing the ASTDR list of hazardous substances in the town code, another hazardous substance list which would be important to include in the amendment for reference could possibly be the OSHA list of hazardous chemicals. And that was pretty much all I had to say. So thank you, and thank you for extending the public hearing.
Thank you. Denise Shorn.
Good evening, Councilman, Supervisor Stewart. At one of the earlier public hearings for another version of this amendment to the town code, I requested that the revision include production guidelines that would distinguish between research and development and manufacturing. At the time, I requested that production quantities be specified for each level of production so that large manufacturing quantities could not be produced under the guise of R&D. At the time, several of the board members said it was a meaningful suggestion that would be taken under consideration. At the last public hearing, Dr. Bahari took this idea further, presenting Inelitech's own industry standards for quantities of chemicals refined in pilot and demonstration plants and lab plants. The Orangetown approvals process gave Inelitech the right to turn 2 tons of raw materials into BTX a day and run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the center of a residential community because they are R&D. To date, they have not pulled their application and it is still approved. As a research and development, they would not be required to be monitored. Going forward, I think it would be unwise not to distinguish between the types of research and development levels, particularly as these plants scale up, under the guise of R&D to generate manufacturing level quantities. I ask you to please consider distinguishing between pilot, lab, and demonstration plants under research and development. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here by raise of hands to speak on the prohibited use question right now? All right, seeing no hands up, I make a motion to close this public hearing for now, but we were going to continue. We're not really closing it because we're continuing it to April 12th, right? Second for Valentine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we did not close it. We continued it. And we, again, thank you, three, for your comments on that.
All right, get Nancy up here.
Our next item is number 7. And we have with us tonight representatives of the New York Football Club. Welcome. once again to Town Hall. And we have several agenda items related to your purchase of the private parcel. It's a private purchase of the Stedge parcel, which is across the street from the soccer complex. This is for the benefit of other folks who might not be following this so closely. So why are you in Town Hall about a private real estate transaction? Because the Stedge property comes with certain strings attached related to the Stedge proposal for a water park and a skating rink and other things. And as purchasers of that parcel, with an entirely different plan, which is a soccer practice field and a few buildings to support that, you want to be sort of start fresh. And the town board is excited to have you buying that property and to have such a nice, clean, rateable, and low-impact use. It's fitting with the recreational zone. And we expressed that to you last time you were here. So there's a few resolutions here. Our town attorney has been working with your attorneys to put them together. And actually, if you don't mind, John, it would be helpful if you just summarized, John, the intent of these two resolutions. One is the lead agency status, of course, but the other has to do with the conveyance of these covenants on that property.
So the resolutions outline, in very short form, the history of the town's acquisition and later sale of this almost 17-acre parcel to Stedge. It was sold with certain specific conditions in mind, with an intent that it would be developed in a fashion approved by the town board, with certain restrictions, conditions, and/or limitations. At the time, it was intended, and I think it's reflected in the resolution, that the adjacent parcel would be developed by the town with an aquatic center, which was subject to permissive referendum. That referendum failed, and everything was turned upside down. With the understanding that the permissive referendum, or that the referendum might fail, the option contract for the sale of the property included a contingency which would allow Stedge, the prospective purchaser, to develop the property without the town and assume the responsibility for all the costs. Referendum fails, Stedge exercises that option, and there is a letter agreement, October 17, 2005, which then embodies all of the different improvements necessary that Stedge is willing to assume. At the time of the option contract, the town imposed certain conditions and restrictions which were embodied in certain declarations as well as in contractual provisions. And the town board at the time agreed to a non-compete for a limited period of time so that Stedge could build its facility and not have competition on other town-owned lands. For better or for worse, the town agreed to that. And it has since burdened the development of the surrounding areas. So here we are, 11 years later, and what was contemplated as the timely development of an indoor recreation center, which would yield tax revenues to the town and provide recreational opportunities to town residents, hasn't been built. It's obviously been a burden financially on Stedge, which paid $1.7 million approximately for the property and has incurred the carrying costs all along, including the cost of infrastructure improvements that it did, install in anticipation of building it. Never happened. So now the property sits vacant. It has produced tax revenues, but obviously not what was anticipated. And there is no prospect, as the town sees it, of that project being built. Years pass. Now there's a prospective purchaser whom you've identified who wants to develop the property but does not want to be burdened with conditions and further infrastructure improvements which are not warranted by the nature and magnitude of the proposed development. Obviously, a 219,000 square foot indoor recreation center with water slides, pools, maybe a hockey rink or two, soccer fields inside, is a far different enterprise than a practice and training facility for a single professional team. The parties in a private land transaction reach agreement, but the new owner needs relief from conditions which of record, because a lot of these conditions were recorded in the office of the county clerk or otherwise survived the closing of title, and everybody's aware of it, so even if they're not recorded, and they need relief. Now it's up to you to decide, given the nature of the transaction, whether to allow that relief such that Stedge bows out, passes title to a developer who will do something that you either believe will benefit the town or not benefit the town, and to what extent. In consideration of the town lifting restrictions on development that had been imposed, the prospective purchaser is willing to relieve the town of the burden of the non-compete, which then allows other prospective developers of other lands on RPC, to consider other indoor recreational facilities. Maybe there are some, maybe there aren't, but it is and always has been a source of consternation to the town. They've further offered to pay $250,000 toward other infrastructure improvements that the town board determines may be necessary at such time, provided that that payment is due only when a permit is actually issued. So the first resolution is the same as typically exists. Any type of action taken by the town board requires the board to consider the potential environmental impacts. The town board was the lead agency for the option contract when the property was sold back in 2005, save for certain site-specific considerations which the planning board addressed. It was in that process, or partly in that process, that some of the limitations were imposed. So what you're being asked to do is to consider the adverse environmental impacts, if any, of lifting the restrictions that burdened the Stedge property in the light of the other benefits that are being proposed, and to make a determination whether there'll be a significant adverse environmental impact. That's resolution number 1. Resolution number 2, assuming there are no significant adverse environmental impacts as a result of the proposed conveyance, do you affirmatively approve the lifting of the various restrictions, conditions, and limitations on development in the light of the far different nature and magnitude of the proposed development?
Okay.
And the consideration, if you will, additional consideration being offered. If you do, that's the second resolution. You are proposing to lift those restrictions and conditions, those in the option contract, later converted into certain declarations recorded, to lift those so that they no longer apply and they don't apply to the new owner, in return for which the new owner will agree to lift the burden of the non-compete. That will disappear. They will agree to give the town $250,000 upon the issuance of a demolition, excavation, or building permit I'm not sure which one. Obviously, there's a building permit needed. There may or may not be the other permits. But when they apply for one of those permits, they'll pay the town $250,000, which you can use in your discretion toward future infrastructure improvements. The only other thing they ask is we do have the issue of the 216-acre deed restriction from the state, which will burden all of the property RPC on January 20th, approximately 2020. If you designate acreage pursuant to that covenant, what they ask is that in writing you tell them you will not designate those 17 acres as part of the 216 acres. Not that you'll necessarily designate 216 acres, but you probably will. And if you do, you will exclude these 17 acres from that burden. And that's essentially both resolutions. The last resolution, we recommend that you make subject to permissive referendum. I tell you publicly, it is not at all clear that it has to be subject to permissive referendum. And the law provides that we don't have discretionary referenda. It's either required, a mandatory referendum, or pursuant to a statute, a resolution's subject to permissive referendum. In an abundance of caution, because the original option contract was approved by resolution subject to permissive referendum because it was a conveyance of land, I recommend that any resolution that lifts those restrictions also be made subject to permissive referendum. So if somebody out there wants to carry a petition and gathers, I don't know, 1,300 signatures, puts it on the ballot, so be it. If after the passage of 30 days nobody carries that petition or has an insufficient number of signatures, the resolution becomes effective. Both parties here are aware of that and I think agree that that is the prudent course of action.
Thanks, John. It's still Tuesday. Brian, do you have anything to add to that?
You know, it's so rare that two attorneys stand here with nothing to say, but I think John
think he
did a
pretty
very
much
good
covered
job of
everything, right?
summarizing all of the issues, and I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. Bruce, do you have anything else to say? Thank you. I just said thank you.
All right. I second the motion offered by Councilman Divany for the town declaring itself lead agency. Do you have all in favor say aye? Aye. All right, ayes have it. Let's see.
Contractual restrictions and covenants.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Congratulations and Godspeed. Includes a negative. Yeah, I mean, we didn't read the whole thing, but it's written out and you described it in detail, so congratulations and good
Well,
luck with your
now I will
project.
say something, if I have a chance here. But that would just be to say thank you to the board for your consideration. I do really appreciate, we unexpectedly had two positive comments from the public that I wasn't expecting, but we're excited about coming to Orangetown. We think this is going to be a great project, so.
Thank you, guys.
Looking forward
Thank
to
you.
it.
Thank you. So all involved.
Yeah, on behalf of everybody at New York City Football Club, LLC, and Orangeburg Acquisition Co. LLC, our car option holder, we're very pleased with the decision. We thank you for your prompt and timely consideration, and looking forward to moving this process forward quickly. Thank you.
All right, good luck,
And
Bruce.
I'd like to thank Tony Lynn for putting in 2.5 years to get this project on the ground. Thank you, Tony.
And I've said this, and I've said this before, I want to thank Mr. Soccer over here, Tom Devaney, for meeting with Tony over the last 2 years and bringing this here to Orangetown. It's a great addition to Orangetown. Thank you.
It's a good project. It's good land use. Number 9 is approving aid to the Dennis McHugh Foundation 12th Annual Run for Fun and Family Fair. I'll make a motion for this. Do I have a second?
Second.
From Divany, all in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Number 10, this is permission to attend the finance conference for our finance team. Do I hear a motion for this from over here? How about from Jerry? Second from Dennis Troy. All in favor say aye. Aye. Number 11, these are certificates of registration from the sewer department. I'll make a motion for this. There are 2 companies listed. Do I hear a second? All in favor, say aye. Number 12 is, these are a couple of items on, some small items related to the highway department and assigning deputy responsibilities. Number 12 is appointing Stefan Muno, Deputy Superintendent of Highways, under Superintendent Jim Dean. I'll make a motion for this. Do I have a second? From Batari, all in favor say aye. Number 13 is appointing Jim Dean, the recycling coordinator for the town of Orangetown. They already handle that, but it makes it official. Do I hear a motion for this one? From Troy, second from Batari, all in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 14 is appointing Stefan Muno, the Deputy Recycling Coordinator, Town of Orangetown. Do I hear a motion for this? From Divany, second from Valentine, all in favor say aye. Number 15, these are a couple of personnel items. Number 15 is reclassification of a position in the police administration. This is from our personnel department and with the recommendation of Rockland County Personnel Department. Number 15. This is the position of senior clerk stenographer becoming the position of principal clerk typist, grade 10. Motion from Troy, second from Divany. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 16 is the appointment of Patricia Quinn to the position of principal clerk typist in the police administration. Do I hear a motion for this? From Troy, second from Divany. All in favor say aye. We also have an audit tonight, and we were going to meet with our police chief on a personnel matter in executive session. Yeah, Chief Nolte is here. Chief? I think he wanted to also have his captain, so we're running a little bit ahead of schedule. Let's do the audit. All righty. So, thank you, Jeff.
In contrast to John, I'll be brief. The audit for tonight's meeting consists of 3 warrants for a total of $480,000. The first warrant consists of 69 vouchers for $217,000 and was for utilities. The second warrant consists of 1 voucher for $3,900 for computer parts, and the third warrant consists of 204 vouchers for $259,000. Following items of interest: number 1, Rockland Commissioner of Finance, $18,000 for pilot agreements. Number 2, CSEA, $25,000 for dental insurance. Number 3, ESC Environmental, $13,000 for sewer chemicals. Number 7, Highland Products Group, $17,000 for new parks bleachers for veterans, and that's paid for out of the bond. And number 11, Wellcore Consulting, $13,000 for Sukasa, which is a pass. Any questions on the audit?
Nope. On the audit? Motion on the audit?
You have a motion on the audit from Tom Divany, second from myself. All in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you, Jeff.
Last week I brought in a new business. Eric Gordon and myself want to do a request for information for a transportation study. To consider, jitney service in the town of Orangetown.
Is there a cost to it?
No. No cost.
Let's do it.
All right.
Then I'm a loser with no cost.
All right.
So, you're gonna give me, we need a town board approval for that? You wanna?
Well, Jerry just
is there a
seconded it.
document?
Oh, it's just a motion to do a request for information for transportation study to set up a mini trans jitney service. That's the motion.
Everyone's looking to see if it's.
I'm all for looking into that.
All right, well then
So we have a
vote
motion
yes.
from you, second from Jerry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Guys have it.
Motion, well,
So,
Right.
are we going to close the meeting, or we gotta come back out and vote?
We can do it.
we don't
We
know.
gotta come back out and vote? or
We
we're
might
not
need to
sure?
come back out and
We
vote.
might.
So we can't close the meeting?
No close.
not closing the meeting.
Do we want to do the adjournments right now? Or no?
Well, we could say who we're adjourning to.
Yeah, all right.
It's a nice thing to do. We don't
We don't
know.
know.
We have to meet with the police chief and his team to review a disciplinary matter. And we don't know if we're going to be voting later. It would just be that item. And that's just the way it is sometimes. Usually we go into executive session and we tell you, tonight we're adjourning in the memory of Charles Dello, father of Ron Dello, former town employee. Dr. Austin Gibbons, Charlie Madigan's brother-in-law. Colonel Richard McFadden, father of Karen Janes, who works in the Highway Department. Eileen Neff, Lauren Smith, and former First Lady of the United States, Nancy Reagan.
I'd like to just say a few words about Dick McFadden, Colonel Dick McFadden. He was a Blauvelt Lion for many, many years, past district governor, president. He was the founder of the T-shirt League in Blauvelt, which later became the South Orangetown Little League. He was a colonel in the Army with about 60 years of service, and he was on the West Point Select Committee. And this community was lucky to have him. Not only was he a good guy, a good veteran, he was a good friend and a good Lion. So he'll be missed.
Thank you, Paul.
All right. On
So
that,
with that, a motion for executive session.
are we going in right now or no?
Well, actually,
I seen the chief.
yeah, he's
waiting
here,
for
but we were originally shooting for 9 because I thought it was going to take longer.
He might be waiting on his cap. Is the chief here?
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
is
he's here.
Oh,
Jeff, can you find out if he's ready yet? We might need to do a recess. All right, I think we're ready.
All right.
Motion, second from Divin, all in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it.